U.S. Consul General Kurt Tong was posted to Hong Kong less than a year ago. With a diplomatic career in the business sector, including Deputy Assistant Secretary for the Bureau of Economic and Business Affairs, he's had postings in Tokyo, Beijing, Seoul, and Manila. I visited him at his residence on the Peak to talk about his job and his view on Hong Kong's role in U.S. relations. So CG Tong, first of all, your last name, Tong, I have to ask you, is it Asian? Do you have any Asian blood in you?
So I have a lot of fun with this name here in China and Hong Kong because people expect me to be an Asian American, and it's actually an English name from the Old English word for tongue, this kind of tongue,
okay.
And also refers in Old English to a location between two rivers.
I know that right after high school, you ended up taking a year in Japan. How did that happen?
Right, so my father was a university teacher, and he got regular sabbaticals and took me along with him right after I graduated from high school to go to Japan. So I hung out and studied Japanese, played soccer, drank a lot of beer. But when I went back to college in the United States, I ended up pursuing East Asian studies in addition to politics and economics, and which then ended up sending me back out to the region again for more study. And it was on one of those times that I met some people from the embassy in Tokyo and ended up being interested in the Foreign Service.
I understand your wife is also from Asia. She's from Japan.
Right.
When did you meet her?
We met when I was still in college. We both participated in a student conference, she representing the Japanese team, and I was on the U.S. delegation, and ended up getting married actually 5 or 6 years after that.
At one point, you were Assistant Deputy Director of the Economic Bureau for APEC.
Right.
You had a chance to do some work on the TPP.
Right.
Can you tell me a little bit about that?
So in various parts of my career, I've actually been involved in trade policy. And TPP still is an initiative which the other countries are pursuing. Now, the United States has decided to leave that initiative, largely because of political reasons inside the United States. But the overall effort, the United States is still an important participant in APEC meetings, and our intention to be very active in the Asia-Pacific region is really important to the United States and our future.
And are you also interested in being more active in the Belt and Road Initiative that China has?
Yes, the United States sent a participant to the Belt and Road Forum earlier this month, and is quite interested in particular of having our companies, not so much the U.S. government itself, but rather U.S. companies, be active parts of the Belt and Road initiatives. And so the companies are reaching out to Chinese counterparts, and I think Chinese counterparts are also reaching out to U.S. companies.
There was a departure from the TPP which focused on Japan, Korea, Southeast Asia, and then now there is a focus on China.
Yeah, we want to work with China, we want to work with Japan, we want to work with Europe, Africa, you name it. And you mentioned my previous position in the Economic Bureau. I traveled to 50-odd countries, and they were all very eager to have the United States as a partner, sometimes in figuring out what are good economic policies, but always they were interested in having our private sector be more active in their economies.
Where do you think Hong Kong stands as far as its progression as a smart city?
Hong Kong has great human resources, but sometimes Hong Kong has been just a tad slow, just a little bit slow in bringing in information technologies or other things that could help develop the services industries around which Hong Kong is so very strong. The U.S. wants to help with that, both in the private sector but also in the public sector.
Right. Which areas are you talking about?
One would be the area of smart buildings. Another would be in the management of traffic, or use of having electric vehicle technology applied together with traffic flow technology, and then the evolving technology around driverless vehicles. If you get the regulatory piece of the picture right, it helps accelerate implementation of different initiatives, and if you get it wrong, it can slow things down. Nice view, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You get to see the harbor. And speaking of the harbor, Hong Kong is one of the busiest ports. How important is this to you in the relationship between the U.S. and Hong Kong and China?
Well, the port itself is really important, as is the airport, in driving trade to and from China and through Hong Kong to the United States. And in fact, if you think about it, the original reason why we have a consulate here, starting back in 1843, was to facilitate trade between the United States and China.
60% of investments coming through Hong Kong are from China.
There's a good reason for that, which is that Hong Kong has, good, excellent rule of law and independent judiciary, and so when you sign a contract in Hong Kong, you can be confident that it will be honored, or that you have recourse if necessary. That's one of the reasons why Hong Kong is such a great center for services, not just financial services, but legal services and other things that drive trade and investment around the world.
How important is Hong Kong's autonomy from China to the U.S. as well as its relationship with China?
For Hong Kong to be successful, and it is successful, it needs to continue to be special. And it's special because it has autonomy, because it can do things differently than in the rest of China. And that creates value for Hong Kong, it creates value for the United States, it creates value for China. So it's extraordinarily important that high degree of autonomy be maintained.
Well, should we go back in and sit down in the cool air conditioning again?
Sure.
Okay, great. You mentioned autonomy. There are issues of rule of law here, especially when the Causeway Bay booksellers were disappeared to the mainland. Was that something that your government was looking at closely and concerned about?
We spoke out and expressed our concerns about that. That was an unfortunate instance of elements in the PRC not following through on their commitment to maintain Hong Kong's high degree of autonomy.
So it's something that you watch, and so far,
overall,
since then?
Hong Kong is a success story. I mean, one country, two systems framework is working. It is working. It needs to continue to work. That requires a commitment by China to maintain its promise to Hong Kong to allow it to be autonomous and have that high degree of autonomy that makes Hong Kong tick. And so China needs to resist temptation to interfere in Hong Kong's affairs when the basic law doesn't dictate such activity.
Okay, great. Thank you.